We go to the hotline, Pickle, and let's bring in the Texas High School Football Hall of Famer. You hear him on the horn in Austin. You see him on High School Scoreboard Live coming this Saturday, and he'll be on the call tonight. Correct, of the 6-man the 1A Division II state championship game between Balmorhea and Richland Springs. We're joined by the great Craig Way. Craig, are you calling this from the studio? Like, what's the setup for this 1A game tonight?
That's the million-dollar question. No, actually, it is going to be, as they say in this pandemic era, remotely broadcast. Or in the case of whenever I do a game, some people will say you're barely remotely broadcasting at all. But yes, we'll be in the studio. Granger Huntress, the 6-man guru, and I will be on the call. This was, put together, was a great collaborative effort between the UIL, Fox Sports Southwest, Bounce Media, which is handling the technical element of it, sending the pictures back from San Angelo Stadium. I love the Concho Valley. I had a son graduate from Angelo State, and I love all things. I wish I could be out there, but we'll do it from the studio, and we'll be ready to roll tonight at 6.
It's going to be fun, and then it all leads up. It's a nice tune-up for next week whenever you're going to call, I believe, 3 of the state championship games there at AT&T Stadium next week. And I want to start with the state semifinals where we're at right now. And it strikes me that, and I called it a little bit before, I called Westlake versus North Shore, with all due respect to the other 7 state championship games, I called that the main event. I think that is the game that I'm most interested in, and what I don't know if I've ever looked forward to a matchup of assistant coaches more than I have with Willie Gaston, the offensive coordinator for North Shore, going up against Tony Salazar, the defensive coordinator for Westlake. That to me strikes. That is, for all the matchups we talk about, the Duncanville secondary against the Westlake, against the South Lake Carroll receivers. I think that offensive coordinator versus defensive coordinator matchup has a chance to really be, maybe it's nerdy, maybe it's too deep in the weeds for some people, but I think that is going to be a fascinating chess match.
Tep, I always say when we get to the postseason that all playoff matchups are created equal, meaning you win and you advance, you lose and your season's over. So in that respect, they're all equal. None are more important than the others. But I do get a little Orwellian and throw in my own Animal Farm twist on that, say all playoff matchups are created equal, but some are more equal than others. And I think that applies in Westlake North Shore there only because it's so highly anticipated. Our friend Jerry Forrest in the computer thinks it's just a 1-point difference, sliding edge to North Shore. But I think the number on that, of course, last week, they had Cedar Park and Manville as a pick 'em, and it was until you got late in the game. So there's great matchups out there, and what you just laid out there, how the North Shore offense with Demetrius Davis, with Shad Banks, and how that offense encounters Tony Salazar's defense for Westlake. That's one of the really juicy elements of this entire postseason to behold, no question.
It's going to be a lot of fun, that game going down, of course, Saturday in Katy. Another game that I know you're going to have a close eye on is what happens when the mighty Hayes Consolidated Rebels, a team that we've been talking about for a long time, and I'll be honest, Steph and I were talking about this last night about how the last time we really thought about like Hayes playing an impactful game was in their Week 10 when they played Bowie. And all we were talking about was how that impacted Westlake because of that. And now, lo and behold, Les Goad has shown up in the state champion or state semifinals, crashing the party, taking on Katy this week. I think what we've seen from Les Goad and Buda Hayes this year represents one of the more, I don't want to say under the radar because they're in a state semifinal at this point. It's hard to be under the radar when there's only 16 teams left. But I feel like people are not talking enough about the job that he has done and the culture that he's built there at Hayes to get them to a state semifinal at this point.
Every year we get a semifinalist like that when you think about it. You get at least one who is an outlier. I think Katie Taylor was that outlier last year. To some folks, Veterans Memorial and Corpus will be a little bit of the outlier to that. I think a lot of folks have gotten used to seeing Wichita Falls make the Ryder make the run they make. Crosby might be a bit of an outlier to some folks, but Hayes is the outlier of outliers. There's no doubt about it. And it's a really unique year in so many ways for all of the unfortunate things that have happened. And I'll tell you something else, Tep, and you knew this, for folks who didn't know, Hayes is in a transition period. They are discontinuing the use of their name Rebels this year. Now they're kind of allowing it. They're not referring to themselves as Rebels, but they understand how others are trying to wean off of that. So they haven't gone Washington football team on us. Put it that way. They haven't said that we are henceforth never to be referred to in that, but they're phasing it out. And so you have that going on. You have the fact that I wouldn't say the slot T has been phased out there in the, by the way, the bustling metropolis of Mountain City is where the school is actually located there in Hays County, hence a consolidated school. I wouldn't say that Coach Goad has phased out the slot T, but he certainly diversified it with what he's got with Durand Hill and what they've done with it offensively. And you brought up the aforementioned Bowie game. They're down 14-0 at the half of that ball game. And, not only if that lead holds up, are they knocked out, as you pointed out, Bowie gets in and Westlake goes D2. And maybe we're talking about a Westlake-Katy semifinal instead of a Hayes Katy semifinal. So there's the old butterfly effect about so many things affecting the other. But they are an interesting view this year with everything that team has done. And lately it's been with their defense. And what they did to Vandegrift and shutting them down last Saturday was nothing short of really impressive.
Talking with Craig Way, the Texas High School Football Hall of Famer here on Texas Football Today. Get involved in the conversation, hashtag TF Today. Big game at the Rock Pile on Friday night as the Corpus Christi Veterans Memorial Eagles take on Cedar Park. Cedar Park, of course, coming off of probably a cathartic win for some over Manville, at least for Ryder Hernandez, who I know had to come in and play in that game back in 2017, if I may date myself, to play that game. They are now through the state semifinals. I know you have conversations with Carl Absek every week. It's the head coach at Cedar Park. It struck me that was the first time we really saw Cedar Park's defense get beat up a little bit. But I think it also speaks to the well-roundedness of this team that they were able to play a different style of game and win it. I think there are past Cedar Park teams that would have been that a team scores 42 and it's over. That's the end of the ball game because you just don't have the firepower. Going into this game against Corpus Christi Veterans Memorial, and I'm not sure if you've talked with Coach Absek yet this week, but I'm very interested, and I'm interested in your thoughts on the game. I'm interested to see how this Cedar Park defense, which is always carries itself with such pride, bounces back after, I think what's fair to say was an off week for them.
Yeah, you know what? And it comes after a week where Coach Absek said his offense had an off week with what they did against Canyon the week before. So he continues to say, and I'm visiting with him tomorrow. He hasn't been on the program yet this week down here, but he continues to say, oh, we can play so much better. And how many times have we heard coaches say that? I mean, you get 3, 4, now 5 rounds deep in the playoffs and say, oh, we haven't played our best football yet. Well, don't you think it's about time? You get to that, and he laughs about that, say we could be better. But they've had moments where they were just on top of the world. And offensively, especially in the second half, what they had to do against Manville, they were able to achieve that. Defensively, they knew they were going to give up some big plays and some points. Manville's too explosive to limit them in that capacity. And I think what they're going to see from Vets Memorial and Carter Center Fit and what they do is going to challenge them. I don't know that Vets has the total package of offensive weaponry that Manville had, and maybe that brings the Black Rain defense a little more back to center. But we don't know until they get on the field. I do know this. They're going to have to continue to get big offensive performances from the variety of receivers, the running backs, and obviously the trigger man, Ryder Hernandez. They're going to have all that, because even if they win without that, they're going to have all hands on deck in the 5A Division I title game, no matter who it is, although most folks think it'll be Denton Ryan, but no matter who it is, they're going to have all weapons working. So I think that's also what he means when he talks about haven't played our best football. They got one more week to try to get it to their best football and yet win and survive in advance.
Finally, Craig, I would be remiss if I didn't ask you about the other big news down there in Austin, which came down this weekend with
Texas beat Kansas.
Yes, Texas beat Kansas in basketball. That's what everybody's talking about. It is noteworthy. Look, as a Mizzou grad, I always support whenever Kansas loses. But I want to ask you about the dismissal of Tom Herman and the hiring of Steve Sarkisian as the new head coach at Texas. You're a guy who's obviously very connected to the program. You're somebody who is there. That's the soup you swim in. Did Saturday's events, if at all, come as did any portion of it come as a surprise to you?
Well, I would say probably the timing of it when it came down. And I think the university was almost kind of left with no choice because word had already gotten out what was happening Saturday morning, that they went ahead and felt the need to make the announcement. I think the thing had been in the works for a bit, but I think that the university would have preferred, if for no other reason, out of respect for Coach Sarkisian and also for Coach Saban in Alabama, to let them go through with their game plan during the week before they get ready to take on Ohio State for the national championship. Once the genie was kind of out of the bottle and the news was out, they went ahead and didn't want a whole bunch of rumor to really, because that drags it out even worse. It's better to go ahead and release the news and do that. So the actual news came out like right at 10:30, just when we were taking the air from Allen Fieldhouse in Lawrence for the basketball game. But it was, then at that point, the university got way out in front of it and had, Chris Del Conte, the athletic director, and do a Zoom media conference. And then Coach Sarkisian had a brief time where he was able to do something that there'll be a more formalized news conference early next week following the national championship game. So probably the timing of it was as much as anything that surprised me.
He's Craig Way. He's a Texas High School Football Hall of Famer. Hear him on The Horn in Austin every morning with Jeff Howe on Light the Tower. And, of course, see him on High School Scoreboard Live coming up Saturday on Fox Sports Southwest. And watch him tonight. Well, maybe listen to him tonight. I'm sure they'll put you on camera once for the call of the 1A Division II State Championship game between Balmorhea and Richland Springs on Fox Sports Southwest tonight. Craig, have a good call. Enjoy some six-man football, my friend, and we'll be watching.
I've got one burning question to ask you. You know how you had the podcast with Tep and Step. Does the name of this show for 2021 switch from Texas Football Today to, and I put it in this order, Pickle and Tep? Does it go to that next year?
I like the order of it.
Bye, Craig.
Oh, just asking.
I like the way you think, Craig. You're on to something here.
Talk to you soon, buddy. There he goes.
We'll see you.
There he goes, Craig Way, the Texas High School Hall of Famer. He has some good ideas, and also, as you can see, nobody's
some
perfect.
Great ideas.
Nobody's perfect.
Yeah. We went from good to great.
Nobody bats 1,000.
We leveled up today.
Nobody bats 1,000. Craig Way, the Texas High School Hall of Famer. He joins us every Tuesday here on Texas Football Today.